Hi, this is Claire Batista from the Claire Batista Golf Academy. Today we're going to be working on chipping. Chipping is a shot that we're going to use when we're really close to the green. Your first option is you can always putt, and I always say a bad putt's going to be better than a bad chip. So if you feel comfortable putting, putt it. But for today, we're in the rough. The rough is pretty high. It's bumpy. I don't feel comfortable putting it, so I'm going to chip it. So when you're doing a chip, you can use any club in your golf bag. It's determined by how far you want the ball to roll once it lands on the green. So right now I have a sand wedge, a pitching wedge, in my 9-iron. I'm only probably about 3 or 4 yards away from the green. The club that I choose, like I said, is going to be determined by how far I need the ball to roll. So I'm going to start with my pitching wedge. The setup with this is going to be a little bit different than your normal setup because we're actually trying to keep the ball low and try to get it to roll once it hits the green. First thing we're going to do, you can always choke down on the club on a short shot. The shorter the club, the shorter the shot will go, and the shorter the club, the more control you have over that shot. Feet, we're going to put your feet closer together or narrow your stance. Anytime you have a shorter shot, I would suggest playing around with narrowing your stance instead of getting into that wide stance that we do when you do a full swing. The other thing that we're going to do is what we refer to as open your stance. So in a normal swing, your toe line and your target line will run parallel to each other, and we call that setting up square. With this opening your stance, we're going to take your left leg and your left foot, and we're going to drop it back and then open the toe towards your target. What that does is get your left hip out of the way. The ball placement is going to be towards your right foot, so a little bit back in your stance. So anytime you want to keep the ball low, play the ball back in your stance. Ball back in the stance, and we're going to take the handle and push it a little bit forward. And then I'm going to put a little more weight on my left leg. Probably about 70% of my weight will be on my left. So it will look like I'm kind of leaning into the green a little bit, leaning towards the target. The swing is going to be very much like a putting stroke. So I am going to stand a little bit closer to the ball than I normally would with a normal pitching wedge. And my swing is going to be just a nice little pendulum motion. I don't have to swing very hard. When I set up, the butt end of the club is going to be pointed left of my hip. When I follow through, the butt end is going to be pointed left of my hip. So I want to avoid anything like this that gets that butt end pointed back into my body. Once I set up, the last thing I'm going to do is try to get the middle of the club, so that sweet spot, to hit the equator of the golf ball, just like we do on our normal swings. So as I am doing this, I'm trying to figure out how hard do I need to swing to land it maybe about a third on the green and then let it roll the rest of the way to the hole. The nice thing I like about the chip and run is even though you may mishit it, because it's such a short swing, the ball, when you miss it, the miss is not going to be as bad as if you were taking a fuller swing, trying to hit it really high and land it very close to the hole. If you mishit that, we fly it over the green and go into the bunker on the other side of the hole. So that's the setup for the chip and run. Our first shot is going to be the closest target. So there's not a lot of green to work with. I'm going to use my highest lofted club, which is my sand wedge. The setup is going to be just like I explained earlier, the ball back in my stance, hands forward, weight towards my left, and then the stroke again is going to be just like a putting stroke. So you can see with the sand wedge, the ball popped up, but it's not going to roll very far. The next target I'm going to go to is this one that has a little more green to work with. Also, there's a little slant to this, so I have to play the break. So I'm going to actually aim left of the hole, and as the ball rolls, we'll see the ball break towards the hole. I do have my pitching wedge, so it has less loft than my sand wedge, so it'll make the ball roll further. I'm going to set up the same way I did with the sand wedge. All I'm doing is changing clubs. So you can see how that ball's going to roll further than the sand wedge. You could also see the break as it was curving towards the hole. So the last hole I'm going to go to is the very far one. So I have a lot of green to work with. So I'm going to use my 9-iron. I still only need to land it about a quarter to a third onto the green and then let it roll the rest of the way. The other thing, it's also going to have some break. It's going to curve slightly left to right. So I'm going to aim a little bit to the left of my target, try to figure out how hard I have to hit it to land it just a few feet on the green, make my putting stroke, and then that ball's going to roll further than the pitching wedge. So the best thing I can tell you with the chip is the same mechanics, change clubs, they do different things. You'll have to practice a little bit to see how far each club rolls, but it's a very, very valuable shot as you start getting closer to the green. It'll take a ton of strokes off your score. If you like this information, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.